Adding Cobblepot to the collection. Here's your look at McFarlane Toys, DC Multiverse, The Batman's The Penguin. The Penguin, otherwise known as Oswald Cobblepot, is the proprietor of Gotham's exclusive nightlife hotspot, the Iceberg Lounge. While the shady crook is known for running his mouth, he harbors not-so-secret designs on running the city's criminal underworld. There's stuff we're going to talk about for the Penguin, and mostly it's positive. Before we do that, though, I wanted to bring in my ruler, just so I can tell you guys how tall the figure stands, just to kind of get things not too close to his face, but just enough that you guys can see how tall he stands. I think it would be safe to say that the Penguin's a little over 7 inches in height. We're going to go with 7¼ inches tall, or just about 18 centimeters tall. And then, like we've done in the other reviews, we can bring in the other Batman figures. So here's the Penguin next to Batman. About the same height. Batman has a little bit extra height just because he has those extra points sticking out from the tops of his cowl. We can also bring in the Riddler. Still like that look of the Riddler, by the way. I know, not everybody's crazy about it. And just recently, we also had a look at Catwoman. Clearly is the smallest of the 4 figures that we've looked at so far. The designs are different, especially again when we're going to be talking about Penguin. There's not really a lot of Penguin happening here. You could say like his face looks a little like Penguin, but they've definitely gone a different direction with the character's design. For Penguin's accessories, checked off, he does come included with a trading card. Checked off, he also comes included with a display stand. And checked off, he comes with other things that has me rather confused. I'm going to talk more about my confusion in a second. Starting first, the figure comes included with the trading card. And while it may look for a second like it's actually pulled from the movie, in actual fact, I think it's still the action figure. It looks a little off, like it looks like more of a figure. I mean, they've done a really good job, to their credit, of lighting it in such a way where it does sort of look like he's from the movie itself. And then just to compare it with the other cards we've gotten, here's the Catwoman, which again was a figure. And there is the Riddler. And the only one that really I thought was an original still was the one for Batman. Although, closer inspection could actually be a figure. And if it is, again, credit to them, not only the pose, but also the lighting that they used. I actually thought that that was pulled from the movie, and it may or may not be. But I think of the Batman is the one that really does actually look more like the movie. Well, let's just have Catwoman flipped around. Well, all the other ones, of course, are just of the action figure itself. I'm going to put those to the side and just flip it around to the back of the Penguin. His real name presented is Oswald Cobblepot. So again, they're staying faithful to the character from the comics. And there is a very short paragraph read-up. I don't know why I had to put my fingers around it. You can either pause it and read it for yourself, or it happens to also be the same read-up that I did at the beginning of this review, if you'd rather have your book on tape. I'm going to put that to the side. The figure also comes included with a display stand, and I'm sure by now you're so bored of me talking about these stands. It's, yes, reviewer, it's the same stand that we get with all the other McFarlane releases. You know what? You're absolutely right. It is. It's a circular black display stand. I can't really hype this up any more than what it is, but at least they did stamp down below what franchise or what licensing they've used. In this case, it's DC. Still, though, I would have liked if they could have actually used the Batman logo and not DC. That's just my own personal opinion. I'm going to move that to the side. Penguin really doesn't need the display stand. I guess really other than Catwoman, all the other figures really have held their own when it comes to standing. Now let's talk about the thing that confuses me of his accessories. And I'm going to pick the figure up first. Normally it would be the case I would have talked about the other things first, but I'm going to pick up the figure because I wanted to show you his hands. Now, these are the ones that are currently with the figure when you get them first out of the packaging. It's a gripping hand on one side and a gripping hand that clearly has a trigger on the other side. Unlike the other figures we've had a look at, usually just forfeits one hand for a closed fist and then the other one is a gripping hand. Penguin actually does get 2 gripping hands. The bittersweet irony in all of this is the fact that the figure doesn't come included with any accessories. Oh, he does. Oh, he does come included with other things as well. But he comes with more hands. He comes with more hands. Starting first, Penguin comes included with a gripping hand, or a fist hand, which again is similar to all the other figures we've gotten so far. A fist hand and an open hand. This is just a case where they threw it in as an extra accessory. I don't know why. I feel this plastic could be probably have used for something else. And then the figure also comes with this hand here, which I can only imagine is him pointing and giving instructions or orders. I can't imagine it's him trying to use like an imaginary gun, because Batman would definitely not be buying it. I'm certainly not buying it. But it's supposed to be, I guess, like a pointing hand. And let's just change things out to show you what's going on here. Remove the hand, just free it from its peg. I'm going to replace it with the pointing hand. Yeah, you know, it is what it is. I mean, I guess if you want to have Penguin on a shelf pointing at something, you could do that if you want to. But yeah, again, like for the fact that he comes with these gripping hands, like he comes with this extra bit of plastic, which I think is a waste of plastic personally. And he also comes with a gripping hand, and yet not to include anything else with the figure. I get the mandate that they can't now use guns. Any of the DC figures that are getting released, unfortunately, can't come included with guns anymore. Even though Batman comes included with a grapple gun, I would kind of argue the point that that's still a gun. You know, if you're not going to include a gun, at least for Penguin, I'm sure there's other things they could have included, like a stack of money, a crowbar, something. I mean, we haven't not yet seen the movie, so I don't even know what Penguin does in the movie. It could be just a short cameo. But yeah, I think he could have come included with something other than just hands. Especially, it's even more of a tease, the fact he doesn't come included with anything else, to then come included with extra hands for mixing and matching for no other purpose than just to give him extra hands. There, I finished my little bit of rant. Starting first things with head sculpt wise, we're going to start with the head sculpt for Penguin. You know, it's a good head sculpt, I have to say. It's got the scar off to the one side like it does in the movie. Colin Farrell. Was he not the sexiest man alive at one point? Has now looked like this. And he looks nothing like the actor. It's certainly a credit to how much he gets into character and the actual prosthetics and makeup that they went with, that it looks absolutely nothing like Colin Farrell. I mean, you could buy into the idea that this could be a Penguin-type character. He's slightly portlier with a hook kind of nose that looks something very much like Penguin would have. The paint, for the most part, is good, although I would argue that the idea that his skin is way too pale. It gives him kind of a sickly look to him. In the movie, from what we've seen so far, Penguin almost seems to have a more darker, not tanned face, but he certainly has a much darker skin tone than what we're getting here for the figure. The head sculpt, again, I would not argue the idea. If anything, I would say Penguin has so far one of the better likenesses from the figure line. Although, really, what are we comparing it against? Batman's got a cowl, Catwoman covers most of her face, and Riddler's also got a mask. So by virtue of that, just by default, Penguin has so far the best head sculpt that we've seen. Now, there is unmasked other Batman figures in this wave so far that we will be looking at in upcoming reviews. I still will think, based on what I've seen so far, Penguin probably has the best head sculpt likeness that we've gotten in these figures. Getting a closer look also at his teeth, I kind of like the way they've sculpted in his teeth. You can see that he looks like he's almost got an underbite here, with all these additional rolls and folds in his face. Really, again, love the scarring in it. The only thing, again, that really could have improved this face is darken the skin tone, because I think, again, it's way too light. As for the rest of his body, he's wearing like a suit jacket, but then he's wearing a trench coat over top of this. This is, other than the hands, my one other issue I have with this figure is the fact that he just sort of feels encased in plastic. I understand the idea that the figure is, of course, produced in plastic, and the things like his jacket, for example, will be just softer plastic they put over top of the existing body. But I think it would have been nice to layer this up a little bit. I mean, yeah, you get the layered effect of having his jacket. Well, first of all, his shirt, then his jacket, then an overcoat over top of it. But I think the trench coat would have been the thing where I would have stopped it and said, let's sculpt the jacket and put it over top. It doesn't read as much as layers to me, even though there is a noticeable gap between the spacing between the two. Like you can see, like the jacket clearly is a sculpted extra piece to this. But being that it's all part of the same mold, I really wish that the jacket could have been a separate piece and not just rely on everything being a shell. Because that's really what it looks like. It looks like a shell that's put over top of the figure's body. I mean, it's sculpted nicely, and I'll credit then the team of McFarlane's team to actually have done a good job of actually sculpting the wrinkles. And it kind of actually looks like the jacket's wet as well. I just wish that the jacket was a separate piece where you would be able to lift it away from the suit jacket underneath, because it's so much plastic all kind of grouped and bunched together. Now the sleeves, at least, they've actually sculpted the sleeves to match the same wrinkles of the jacket. The jacket is a little shinier than the arms, but it's close enough that it doesn't bother me too much. As we get a little further down the figure, he's got very large, baggy legs. A lot of that can be contributed to the types of pants that he's wearing. It doesn't really look like he's wearing something that's fitted properly to his body, but yet the drape of the wrinkles on the bottoms, especially like the cuffs, work really, really well. He does have those spats. I think they're spats on the tops of his shoes. Something that the Joker we just recently had a look at from the McFarlane Toys Mortal Kombat line didn't have these on top, but Penguin certainly has them. I think that's a nice little nod to the way that Penguin would have looked, having those covering over tops of his shoes. It also helps to bring in a lot of extra color there too, because other than really just the shirt and the tie that he's wearing, it's a lot of real dark colors happening here for Penguin. Let's talk a little bit about the figure's articulation. The head rotates all the way around. I know normally this would have been something that would have killed the character, but just to show you, for the purpose of this, how much rotation you can actually pull off from his head. The head hinges up, and it hinges down, and as well, you can also rock it back and forth too. As for the arms, no restrictions whatsoever, even though he's encased in plastic the way he is. You can easily move his arms out. In fact, like this arm, it's just a little looser between the two. You can take the arms and rotate them all the way around. Let's bring the other arm down as well. Figure does have a bicep swivel, which, is nicely concealed in there. For a second, when you're looking at it, the way that they have the wrinkles folded like this, it's kind of hard to see where that cut is. So he does have a nice little bicep swivel. Figure has, sadly, only a single hinge in the elbow. This elbow is tighter than the other one. I don't know why this one is so tight. Probably going to have to take a hairdryer, so heating it up. But this elbow does have a better bend on this side here. And you can see it's just a single hinge. Not disappointed really by the fact it's only a single hinge too. If you put a double hinge, I think it would have broken up the mold. And really for a character like Penguin, he's not leaping around like a ninja. I can't imagine why he would need a double hinge on the elbow anyways. It's not like he really has any accessories to speak of. The figure does have a swivel on his lower arm, which really then makes this null and void. I mean, if you're going to have a swivel down below anyways from the elbow down, why then put a swivel cut right here? It's unnecessary plastic. It's similar to when we looked at the Catwoman. The Catwoman had the little cuff down below by her glove, but it's like, why would they have even added that? That would have had to have been produced as a separate mold from the rest of the arm, and of course increase the cost of producing it. So why would they even put a cut right here when the cut down below, it's not that far down the street that the cut here, the swivel in the elbow, does just as much work as the swivel cut right here. They could have just done away with this altogether. Hands rotate all the way around. You can also hinge those back and forth. Now again, you're looking at a body like this, because so much of it is just a big plastic shell. Because of that, you really can't do too much when it comes to his upper torso body. I mean, there probably is. If you were to sell me on the idea that there's a bend somewhere in there, I probably would still believe you. You can kind of feel like where there's a shell, there's like a body inside the shell of the plastic. The legs at least split out, so that's something. You can bring them forward and bring them back. There is a swivel further up the thigh. You can swivel it right there. Figure has a single hinge on the knee. Again, like the single hinge is fine and good, but really, what are you really going to be doing with it anyways? The foot does have that articulation happening here. You can also rock it back and forth. And like with the other figures we looked at earlier, Penguin also does have a bend in the toes. Again, if you wanted to. The figure is good in regards of the sculpting. There are things, of course, I wish the figure could have done differently. More importantly, like the skin tone of his face, I feel is way too pale. If they had darkened the color, really added a nice wash to the face, I think is really where some of those features and the likeness of Penguin would have stood out a lot better. And then again, the problem always comes when you have a character like in a straitjacket or in a trench coat. The overcoat, not a straitjacket, the overcoat, being that it's just part of the suit jacket that's underneath it, it really does read like it's just a big shell of plastic. I wish that the trench coat could have been something that was a separate piece. If anything, the cost of producing the extra hands, which I think are really not necessary with this figure in the first place, they could have saved the cost right there producing those extra hands and just instead had the trench coat as a separate piece where it would have looked separate from the jacket that was underneath it. Here in final looks, I've got the Penguin pointing. That's about the only thing he can really do. Unfortunately, because the figure doesn't come included with, again, any accessories whatsoever, I think it's blasphemy that a character, I understand if for reasons above them, somebody's telling them you can't release a figure with a gun. Okay, that's fine. Release then Penguin with something else. I almost feel like they threw in the extra hands just to make up for the fact that he didn't come included with any accessories. I mean, even in the back of the packaging here, the image that they used for Penguin, which we again have to assume is probably the figure, it looks like he's holding something in his hand. Is that an umbrella? Why wouldn't they have included the figure with an umbrella? He's Penguin after all, and I gotta imagine he's still, to some regards, gonna have a penguin somewhere in the movie, whether it's just a quick reference to, hey, yeah, this penguin's also got an umbrella. They could have easily included an umbrella with this figure. The hand instead is sculpted for what would have been a gun. The only thought I have is that maybe down the road, a gold label version of this guy is going to come out, where maybe he's going to have a different paint finish, and he's probably going to come included with some accessories that unfortunately weren't packaged with this figure in the first place. But again, I implore you, if you're going to take the time and mold plastic additional hands, just use that plastic and give them an accessory instead. I don't mind forfeiting hands that I would never use with the figure in the first place. If you want a pointing penguin, yeah, he's got that hand. But I'd rather instead use that plastic for something that would have been better to display with the figure, like a gun, which I know you can't use. How about an umbrella? It's right there on the back of the packaging. It's teasing you. Like, he's got an umbrella. I had to kind of stop for a second and look at that. I thought it was a bag, but then I realized it was something behind him. It looks like it's an umbrella. Why wouldn't they have included an umbrella with this figure? Anyways, what do you guys think of the penguin? Let me know down below in the comments section. And if you are new to this channel, you're enjoying the content you're seeing, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell notification so you get those friendly reminders whenever new videos are going to be popping up. And speaking of new videos, we are still going to be continuing our journey in Batman's first, 2 years as a crime fighter, as we continue our looks at the McFarlane toys, the Batman figures. There's going to definitely be a lot more coming your way. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.